So I decided to push out my initial impressions of the 3 new releases. And right off the bat I do have to say that at least 2 of these will most likely be featured on my future top 5 wireless mice video. Before we start going through the mice separately, I will have to say that the quality on all of these mice is really good. They are all tanky and there is no side flex and no creaking on any of these mice. Some people have reported that they've had issues with creaking on XTRFY mice, but I at least have none on my XTRFY M42 wireless. The Viper V2 Pro feels premium in hand with the surface it has, but I do wish it was a little bit more grippy. The M42 and the Xlite Mini wireless feel good, but these both obviously have holes. And that kind of makes them feel less premium, although I do like the circular holes on the XTRFY mice and the sort of line-like holes that Pulsar mice have. And from that we will move on to the M42 wireless, and this was one of the most expected mice of 2022 for me. This is one of my all-time favorite shapes and it does really fit me like a glove. It overall feels really solid, so all the clicks are very good, the side buttons are good. Actually the front side button feels quite mushy. The backside button feels good, but not premium by any means. Then the scroll wheel feels alright. Mouse feet seem to be improved from the M4 wireless because they feel quite great with the M42. The biggest difference to the wired version will be the weight, so the wired version weighs about 58 grams and the wireless version weighs about 68 grams. You can clearly tell the difference between these 2 mice, but it doesn't bother me that much. I mean, I would of course want the M42 wireless to be 60 grams, but 68 is something I can live with for sure. With this shape and claw grip, the weight should not ruin the mouse for you by any means. The wireless implementation is again very good from XTRFY and there are no issues with motion delay or click latency. People have complained about this new swappable shell system where they actually have screws holding the shell together, but in my opinion it's actually very good because the screws of course make it so that the shell locks into place much more. And of course you save quite a bit of weight without magnets as well. I also heard that people had issues removing the bottom pieces, but I didn't have any myself. So I just unblock these 2 things right here, pull it up and push it forward a little bit and it's off. And then you kind of place it near the back edge, place it where it should be, push them in, push it in from here. It's there, clicks feel still good. I don't know, it's quite easy to me. Super happy to see the M42 wireless happening. I will post my full review in about 2 weeks, but those guys who really love the M42 wired version, you will love the wireless as well, especially if you claw or palm grip. And even if you fingertip grip, I don't think the weight increase is such a big deal. Of course, for the future, I would like to see a version without RGB, no holes, and I think the weight distribution setting is kind of useless, so it should go as well. I'm running my M42 wireless on the middle setting, which seems to be the best one for me at least. Moving on to Pulsar Xlite wireless version 2 Mini, and I will start with the fact that it's really nice to see more small wireless ergonomic mice on the market. It is significantly smaller than the Xlite wireless version 2. You can clearly feel the difference in length, width and height. The Mini still has somewhat pronounced hump here on the left side, so that will give you more control when you claw or palm the mouse. That is really nice to see because that's something that's completely missing from the EC3C, and that was one of the reasons why I ended up disliking this mouse. Otherwise, the Xlite wireless version 2 Mini is actually smaller than the EC2C. It feels thinner and shorter, but it still feels good because of the hump on this left side. The EC3C actually feels quite bulky after the Mini. Otherwise, everything seems pretty much the same on the Mini, so the clicks feel very good. The scroll wheel is very good, the side buttons feel quite nice. It has the same great 3370 implementation as the previous versions, and also very good stock feet. More about this one also in the full review, but if you guys enjoyed the EC3C, you will most likely enjoy the Mini as well. Especially if you wanted a little bit more pronounced hump that will contact more with your palm. But once more, keep in mind that the original Xlite wireless version 2 is much larger than the Mini. Then we got the Viper V2 Pro, which is of course an updated Razer Viper Ultimate. Side buttons protrude a lot more now and they are much easier to use than on the Viper Ultimate. And the Viper V2 Pro also has V3 opticals from Razer, which actually feel very good, but they are slightly heavier than some LethalGamingGear 8.0 implementations that I've tried. The click feel isn't as snappy and tactile as it is with some mechanical options, but that's pretty much to be expected from optical switches. And these are the best optical switches I've tried for now. The most major difference is going to be the weight, so the Viper V2 Pro cost about 58 grams, and the Viper Ultimate then again cost 74 grams. That's a quite massive difference, and it will actually make a big difference on this shape specifically. More about the weight and why that actually matters on my full review, but a quick sneak peek is that what I think is a big factor in regards of weight and shape is how much of palm contact you have with the mouse. They also updated the mouse feet, and these actually feel very good and much better than the Viper Ultimate stock feet. And of course now they are using the Focus Pro 30K sensor on the Viper V2 Pro, which is basically a Pulsar 3395. You can expect the performance to be great in terms of motion latency and also of course click latency, but you shouldn't feel any difference with the Viper Ultimate, and if you do, it's most likely placebo. However, it might actually be that we haven't even realized or seen the full potential of the Razer Focus Pro sensor. Razer also got rid of the rubberized sides for weight purposes, and now they have included those in the box if you want to use grips. Oh, and of course now with the V2 Pro they have USB-C charging and 80 hours battery life, which should be a little bit better than with the Viper Ultimate. And of course now there is no RGB with the logo because it's printed right here, so you will more likely hit that max battery life. The price is something that has been heavily discussed, but I do want to remind you guys that the Logitech G Pro X Superlight was available at the same exact MSRP as this one is. $150 in the US and 170 euros in Europe, but you can use some discount codes on Razer store for some savings. Those are at least available for students. I was hoping for the mouse to be cheaper, but because of the pandemic everything is pretty much more expensive, and the fact that it has brand new tech inside, so there were quite significant R&D costs, I kind of understand the price, but of course I'm not happy with it. I'm actually super hyped about all of these mice, especially the M42 wireless. I think this release has been underappreciated just because of the 68 grams weight, which isn't high by any means, and the fact that it has the 3370, which isn't a bad sensor by any means as well, especially when you consider the XTRFY implementation. But still, of course, one thing I would for sure want to see is no RGB, no holes anywhere, and the weight to be about 60 grams. Alright, so I wasn't expecting 3 bangers such as these to be released at the same time. If you are interested in buying or pre-ordering any of these, I can recommend it. Although in the case of the Viper V2 Pro, you might actually want to wait a couple of months and see if the price drops. It usually does in about 2 to 4 months. Full standalone reviews for all of these in about 2 to 3 weeks. And for now, if you want to check out my thoughts on the M42 or the Viper V2 Pro shapes, check out these videos right here. And why not check out the Artisan Zero review right here as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you enjoy my content, hit that subscribe button, and see you in the next one.